and I was the only Finnish teacher there. And every time I met a teacher from England, France, Italy, you name it, they always ask me the question that what is the secret sauce behind the Finnish educational success? And I just had to answer honestly that I don't know. And that made me actually curious myself, that what is it that makes it unique and special and different.
Welcome back to Orbits Consulting. My name is Manal Zainuddin, Global Education Consultant and founder of Orbits Development Code, an approach for conscious learning and being. This podcast highlights education communities from macro and micro angles, leadership, learning, personal and professional growth across multiple disciplines. Education is holistic and as vast and infinite as the cosmos. As we bring stories, interviews, talks, projects from around this globe, I extend Plutarch's famous quote that I had posted in the schools I have worked in. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. In the year 2000, I started my career as a first grade teacher in my home country, Lebanon. And during that first year, I can say that there was this lack of comfort and anxiety, and just like many novice teachers have at the beginning of their teaching experience, because they want everything to be organized, to have those quiet classrooms and well-managed classes. But I received the proper support and was grateful to have gained this self-confidence that I found myself later more at ease with students moving around and talking in the class while doing the reading and writing, where we were even acting out and so much more. So it was not the quiet classroom, the traditional classroom that we all know, but it was also not the noisy classroom. It was the classroom where real learning was taking place, where we were building connections with each other. And that drew my attention to this different way of teaching and learning, because I myself was in there, the teacher. And later, as I grew more experienced and knew about the Finnish model of education, I understood the value of what I was actually doing. And I felt not only confident of myself, but also joyful, actually, that my students were happy while learning. And that's why today our guest is a very special one, not only because she comes from the educational field in Finland, but also because she is presenting, as I see it, a revolutionary way of modern teaching and learning, because she's preserving the Finnish touch that we all know while doing coding, robotics, gaming, etc. Pirjo Suhonen, founder of ALO Finland, massive open online courses on Finnish Education 2.0. We are so excited to have you with us today on this podcast.
Wonderful. Thanks a million. And it sounded lovely what you explained about yourself as a teacher and how you changed. Normally, when I do my Finnish education courses, I always ask that why did you become a teacher and how has it changed you as a teacher? And I also like it that sometimes it's good to have a quiet classroom, but more often it's better when there is that active buzz going around. It doesn't have to be noisy, but it should be a little bit lively. I mean, kids are kids, and you should let them loose occasionally. And what I was going to say more, that teachers should talk less and allow kids to take the stage more.
Yes, I fully agree about that. And that's why when I just thought of having this little introduction from my experience, because it's only when you are in the field, in that real world experience that you can discover those intricate sides of teaching and learning, which are really enjoyable. And that's why I think it's good to know more about you now and how you came with the idea of digital teacher training on Finnish education, because sometimes we may think that Finnish education is not about technology because it's all about the interaction in the class. But I think what you have come out with is really brilliant. So we would love to know more about it.
Lovely, thank you. The idea actually came, I used to teach myself in Brussels in a European school, and I was the only Finnish teacher there. And every time I met a teacher from England, France, Italy, you name it, they always ask me the question that what is the secret sauce behind the Finnish educational success? And I just had to answer honestly that I don't know. And that made me actually curious myself, that what is it that makes it unique and special and different, since we teach a lot less hours, and there isn't any private tutoring going in the evening either, and yet we do well in standardized tests. And
Yes.
also we don't even have standardized tests in Finnish schools. The only one they take is A levels when they 19 years old. So to go back to digital teacher training, I also took some of those teachers to visit Finland, to my summer house, and also to visit the schools. And it was one of them who said that why there isn't an online opportunity for this. Obviously, it's not quite the same as coming here yourself, but it can be done, and it's a lot more affordable option also, because what I
True.
realized that it's mainly school owners or principals who come and visit the, or politicians who come and visit the schools, when it should be the teachers,
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah.
because
Yes.
they are the ones who make the magic happen in classrooms in the end. So they would gain the most about these courses and visits to schools and classrooms in Finland.
Yes, this is absolutely true, actually, because they are the ones who are in the field. They are the ones who are encountering all those challenges, because it's also about challenges. It's not always stories of success. There are some failures. And this is, I think, one of the important features of your education system. It allows mistakes to take place, and we only learn when we make mistakes.
That is very important. If you want innovations in education, you have to allow teachers to be risk takers, and also to be able to fail at sometimes, fail forward and learn from them, and really to have that encouraging culture to try something different, try something new. It doesn't always succeed, but you can always learn from your mistakes and take it from there, baby steps. But if you penalize teachers, and if the only learning outcome and result is to do well in a test, you can forget about creativity and curiosity in classrooms, both teachers and the students. I would claim that.
I think you've just also mentioned a point, which is the standardized tests, because we are contradicting ourselves as I see it now in the world. We are forcing our learners, and although we call them students. And this is a contradictory to the vision that we always talk about. We have to target lifelong learning instead. So calling them learners because they are there in the real world and they are supposed to be learning every single day instead of being monitored all the time with data, although data is important, but to a certain extent when it comes as a tool, simply as a tool for learning, to improve learning, rather than just to have records and compete, because it turned out to be competition after all.
Indeed, and like you mentioned, if the full focus is to do well in standardized tests, then we lost something what should be more important, and you mentioned it already. It's lifelong learning. And also, if education becomes competition, not just between schools but within a school, if you worry about the next door teacher doing better at test than your class, then that's going to kill the collaboration in schools, isn't it?
Yes.
And only in
Yes.
collaboration you can actually learn to become a better teacher and to get brainstorm more ideas to develop the whole school system better. So otherwise we just end up teaching in silos and holding on to those brilliant ideas which can happen in classrooms and schools.
Yes, and this is a core point. And Pirjo, what caught my attention is the way you utilize technology, because many of us, I think, and also the listeners, notice that there is a misunderstanding of technology and its usage in the classrooms. Although we already have some good models, such as SAMR model, that can move teaching and learning to a different level, to enhance learning, and then move it to another level to transform learning. But still, in the way you use it, technology is at its highest value. You are even doing coding and gaming and robotics with the pedagogy already infused. So it's a totally active process of teaching and learning. Can you tell us more about that?
Thanks a million. It's lovely to hear. Yes, I always say that teacher is still the best app out there and most likely will always be. But I actually I did my master's a couple of years ago on educational technology, and not so much about the technology part of it, but more so that how you integrate technology into education. So mine was more about the innovative pedagogy that goes hand in hand with
Yes.
educational technology. And I read some OECD reports, and it was saying that in many countries the integration fails because it shouldn't be just about the apps and devices that teachers decide that, okay, let's use this app today, or let's buy this device to the school. But it's more about the implementation of it, that how do you take it? That I really don't want to see individual kids learning on their screens all day long. That's not
Yes.
education for me. Yes, you can do that occasionally also, but there's so much more you can do with it, and it can inspire more collaboration and global education, etc. It can make the world smaller, so you should do that. When I started teaching coding in one of the primary schools in Finland, you must have heard about flipped classroom, where they
Yes.
use
Yes.
videos as homework, and then when they come to school it's more about collaboration. So
Yes.
since I'm Finnish and I'm a bit bold, I thought that, well, let's flip it twice. I'm not just going to use technology and videos, but I'm going to make the learners to become teachers. So I flip the role completely. Obviously at the beginning I have to be on the stage to show them how it's done, but I basically I gave a coding lesson to this. They were then year 3 pupils, so 9 years old in Finland. And then I asked them that now you go and repeat it. I give you the lesson plan. Your teacher is there to help you. But you kids, you take the charge and you teach other classes and teachers, including the principal, the basics of coding. And they were super. They were a million times better than I ever hoped for. They actually, a couple of nearby schools, they heard about the coding lessons, and they did cycle trips there. And they ended up getting in the news, local newspaper, and they taught local entrepreneurs as well as the mayor the basics of coding. So that was just brilliant. Furthermore, to say that learning by teaching is really effective is because not only that they taught the whole school, and they managed to create a whole school collaboration, and even beyond that, they themselves, that class, this lasted until they went to secondary. They got into coding so much, not just teaching coding, but to take their own coding further, that they got into robotics, and they took part of the national championships, and they
Oh,
became
wow.
second and third the following years. So there is really good evidence to say that it's effective way to learn.
This is fantastic, because here you are presenting a comprehensive case from all sides. It's so clear how everyone got engaged and how everyone got excited to take it to another level. We'll talk about a bit more about this kind of class, which I see as a remarkable balance between technology and social interactions. You just mentioned that it's not only a child sitting in front of a screen. There is no the sit still and use the device in a regular technology class. The classes, as I've seen in the videos that you have shared, they are active classes. There are children walking around, they are talking while doing their coding, robotics, and you mentioned the double flip. They are teaching even other children, conducting their own lessons. So are there more specific strategies that you can share with us about this?
I think to say that it doesn't have to be just coding, it could be anything, teaching cooking or whatever else. And I also did this gamified mathematics lessons.
Yes.
And this was a really clever game. It was based on AI. So it modified the learning based on
Yes.
how well and fast the kid was doing with the game. So that was really good. And it also assesses all the time the learning, so it gives instant feedback for both for the teacher and the learner how you teach. But here we use the Finnish double flip, so that the class that I was using the game with was primary year 1 class. So the primary year 3 pupils, they made learning videos, mathematics videos for these kids, so that they were able to play the game. For instance, I said that, well, they need to really learn multiplication well before they go into division. Could you make them some really useful multiplication videos so that they can watch them at home, and then I can play the game in the classroom?
Yes.
And they were brilliant. I mean, they were so good. They weren't just teaching on the chalkboard. And don't get me wrong, I still think that chalkboard is a brilliant tool also, and a very
Me
long-lasting
too.
tool. I use that with the coding lessons also, just to prove my point that it's just another tool in the box. So those videos were just amazing. I mean, kids loved making the videos, and those little learners, they really loved watching them, and they were actually quite encouraged to make their own videos also. I mean, they used Legos and steps in the school to show how to do counting, etc. And really clever and creative, and they were trying to share their best practices, how it made them click that this is, if you think about it like this, then it really makes it click. They were superb. And best feedback came from one of the boys. He raised his hand and was really trying to get my attention, like, teacher. And just like, yes, what is it? And he had figured out that, well, for instance, if I forget it at home how to do multiplication, I can take my own Legos, watch the video again, and then I remember.
Oh, brilliant. That's
Isn't it?
really, yes,
Best
yes.
feedback you can get. He had figured it out himself.
Again, it's about how the teachers are able to manage such a classroom when the children are walking around. I think if you can share with us what challenges teachers face, because not all teachers feel safe within this classroom. They might feel that they will lose control over their classes. So how do you think they can manage this type of class in a good way?
That's a good one. I think this comes with practice also and experience. And I wouldn't do it within the first months of the year when you're still getting to know the kids. But I would also
Right.
say that the discipline comes easier when you can trigger their passion points and their motivational levels. I mean, kids loved it. Yes, I could easily tell that they could get easily let loose too much. But these kids, they really took the responsibility well. They felt proud. You could tell that they were really hold their head high. They were really proud to teach. I mean, they were 3 years younger or even 4 years younger, and they were teaching primary 6 kids to the basics of coding. And when these kids came into the classroom, the older ones, they were first bit like, oh, they're younger than us, what do they think they can teach us? But the tone changed as they started, as they went
Yes.
along with it. So I would say that start baby steps. Maybe it doesn't have to even be a whole lesson, but if you see, because every child, I always say that you have so much talent in every classroom. If you spot something in the class, it could be a small group who is really good in maths. Maybe they could teach something and really show off their own talent. Or someone is excellent in PE. I mean, I just went to a preschool recently, and there was a really good couple of kids who were brilliant at long jump. So I asked them to show it, that how it's done, and teach the other kids. And suddenly there were 20 kids jumping. So it doesn't have to be a whole lesson. Start with something small and build it up from there, because there are so many ways how you can use the pedagogy.
Yes, I cannot agree more. And I think when what you just said, when they set the model in front of the children, and when the children get excited and fully immersed in the process, they will become supportive to the teacher as well. I think there will be less disciplinary issues in the class.
I think so too. I think so too. And it's a great feedback for kids also. They learn to realize that, hey, actually I'm really quite good at this. And also that they value their own strengths. Then it's easier to accept their weaknesses also, when you can say that, well, remember how well you did that, and you taught the others to do it too. So it's also self-assessment for the
Yes.
children to highlight their strengths.
Yes, and this stirs a fundamental point for us to discuss. How can leaders invest in teachers and how they can support them? Because this is not an easy experience, especially for teachers who are just beginning to step into this type of learning.
Indeed. I mean, I always say that to become a good teacher, you need years of training, good quality training. But to become a great teacher, you need years of practice also. I mean, in Finland, teachers still tend to stay until retirement age in the profession, and this is one of the reasons why
Yes,
the education is strong in Finland, because you do have really qualified and very experienced teachers in the schools. And mostly when you get a new teacher in the school, you partner with a senior teacher, because obviously senior teacher has got so many tricks and so much wisdom in his or her pockets that can
correct.
benefit the junior teacher. And again, junior teacher can give in the latest research and maybe that energy and motivation that the senior teacher might be missing sometimes. So it works like a really good combination. So in that sense, to go back to your question, how can leaders be there? That really there is a huge shortage of teachers, not just in few countries, but worldwide.
Correct.
I wrote an article about it. I think the figure was 69 million teachers are needed to get into the field by 2030. 69 million. That is a massive number. So
Yes,
teachers should be invested so much more. Not just that that they can live on a salary. I mean, like in US, I find it heartbreaking when teachers have to do two other jobs just to be able to live and support their own families, because you can live on the teacher salary. So why would you stay in that field until you just get a better job? So investment, and not just money, but the status. And very often teachers also say that autonomy. If you are given that autonomy, that is one of the reasons many teachers tend to stay in the field, because you feel like that you're respected and you trusted professional, and that means a lot. So the societal
yes.
status as well as salary needs to change, so that we don't only attract the best into the field, but also we manage to keep them longer than just a couple of years. until they get a burnout or a better job.
Yes, unfortunately, this situation is like this in so many other countries in the world. Unfortunately, teachers are still underrated in so many ways, not just the salary. And I think one of the things also, we expect much of them, but we are not offering them patience. We're not offering them the right training, like you mentioned. We're not offering them the teacher initiation programs at the beginning before they step into this field. And again, our fixed systems, because they have to comply by the systems, unfortunately, the standards, they're not given autonomy, like you said. So that makes a major issue.
Luckily, they talk a whole lot more nowadays about the standardized tests, and hopefully, eventually, it will change. I find it funny when sometimes people argue that, well, how can you make sure that the teacher is actually teaching well? And I'm just like, well, if you don't trust the teacher, why do you let him or her to teach in the first place? That can't you see that there's a fundamental issue here now?
Yes.
But then you need to build the whole system from ground up again, if that's the way you see it.
Yes, and I think the professional development itself is segmented actually. The training is not fully comprehensive of the entire issues. There is no clear system of the aspects that you want to work on. So the teacher is taking this workshop on one topic and then another workshop on another topic, and they fail to connect them. And most of the time, they do not target the same school community, the same country system itself, because it differs from a system to another. So that's why you feel that there is this segmentation. You feel that there are lots of missing links still evident for all of us, and we're still going on in circles, not able to fix them. And this is really saddening, because as we move forward, we still have these issues. We are not able to solve them.
Quite right, quite right. But we're getting there. We'll get there eventually. We just need to talk more about it, and not just teachers to demand investment into education, but parents, because it's all of our problem, isn't it?
Yes, I fully agree about this. Yes. Pirjo, this is all so inspiring, because I think whatever you mentioned, it proves that these types of practices, no matter where they originate and under whatever context, they can still be transferred. And you said throughout the MOOC that you have, those classes can be shown to teachers, so that teachers can have this glimpse, at least, even if they're not there physically, they can see how these environments are being created. So you are using technology, but you are still preserving those human connections, which we really miss in the classrooms in the most beautiful ways. I think you are empowering teachers, and you are expecting them to empower the children as well. So both teachers and learners, they're becoming explorers in the class at their own pace. So here there is self-regulation, there is agency, there is metacognition, and it's all extending to this growth mindset and entrepreneurship. You're preparing them for the world as well. This is really amazing. And unfortunately, Pirjo, I know that I, as well as the audience, would love to explore more about those interactive classes, but time passes quickly when the conversation is so exciting. Again, I express my deep appreciation for you being with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, me too. It was a pleasure. Hopefully, I'll get to visit Lebanon one day.
We would love to have you. And like always, we end our episode with an open-ended question for all of us to reflect on. And in this guest episode, I leave this question to our guest, Pirjo Suhonen, the founder of ALO Finland Massive Open Online Courses on Finnish Education 2.0. Pirjo?
Thank you. I got a couple of them actually about the investment into education. So, can we afford not to invest in education? Can you imagine life in the future in uncivilized society? What's going to happen with science, safety, climate change, technology, innovations if only the few can afford good quality education?